Let's go live. Here we go. Watch me go live. Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? Doug Taylor already in the chat. How you doing, Doug? How's everything in Seattle? I almost forgot where I was there for a minute. You know, it's snowing here in Ohio, so when Josh comes on in Florida, I don't want to hear the temperature down there.
Yeah, 75 last weekend.
Oh my
Snowing
gosh.
this weekend.
Was you driving in the snow on the way over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. I mean, for what it was. Doug's the only one in the chat. Look at that, 7 o'clock. We're on time. Everyone expects us to be late, I guess.
Yeah, they'll be here in a few minutes.
Yeah. Where's AJ? I thought AJ would be in the chat.
Sounded like he had a lot of homework to do.
Yeah, maybe. Vlad's still coaching on Monday nights, I think.
Yeah, not sure about saying that.
There's Josh. It's warm and rainy here. I'm so sorry, Josh. Sarcasm.
Orlando.
Of course. Yeah, I'm jealous. Hope everybody had a good week. There's not much going on in the world of Overpower right now.
No.
No, unfortunately. Hey, Captain, how are you? Captain, I'm glad you're here. And I got a question for you. Are you the one who won the trivia question last week? I know there was a couple people. I didn't go back and check it out. Larry never did. He wasn't able to get back on into the chat to see who won. I think it was the captain.
I don't know if there ever was an answer.
Yeah, Larry said there were supposed to be 2. Hi, Michael.
Did anybody find the second one?
Yeah, Captain. I'm pretty sure the captain nailed him, and so did Brett.
Okay.
But I'm not sure who did it first, and I thought it was Captain. None of us won the trivia question last week.
That's what
All
I
right.
thought. I thought that kind of a false question.
Hold on a minute. Why is my phone doing this? I'm gonna pull up what I got from Larry. I gotta learn to charge my phone during the day, not when I'm trying to.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of that too.
Larry says the 3 I was looking for, but should have been 2: Psylocke, Lady Mandarin,
Yeah.
Madripoor location, and the Madripoor aspect.
Oh.
You're right. I don't think anybody did.
Yeah,
Interesting. But the aspect doesn't say Mandarin.
Yeah, and I didn't. I mean, the home base just says his name.
And Madripoor, I mean, I was, as far as the location, just has him listed on
Right,
there.
it's not a card
I was looking
name.
for a card that had Mandarin in the name.
Right.
I don't think Madripoor, the location counts.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so.
Can you build a decent deck out of that Madripoor location now, Mandarin?
No, I don't think so.
You still can't?
No.
No negate?
No.
I don't even remember who's on that one.
I don't. Maybe Wolverine. The only one I really remember. It's not very good.
Yeah, it was a trick question. I think Larry outsmarted himself on that one. Does the Madripoor aspect actually? It does not, Captain. Yeah, and Larry he thought it did. Forgot that it didn't. So there was no winner last week technically. So we're gonna let Larry off with that one. Larry's riddles are becoming more powerful each week. Yeah, especially when there ain't no answer.
Yeah. Okay, so the 6 characters on Madripoor: Wolverine, Psylocke, Elektra, Omega Red, Mandarin, and the Hand. So nothing great, but I guess you could play the Hand and Wolverine
Yeah,
and Mandarin.
that might be a decent battle site.
Maybe if you could bump Mandarin's fighting, it would be decent, probably. Still no negate.
Yeah, still no negate.
And no team defense.
It sucks that you gotta have a negate.
Yeah, you could run Elektra to avoid the teamworks, I guess.
Yeah, I always hate that when I'm playing my teamwork deck and they got that character sitting over there, or Jubilee.
Yeah.
All right, so we've done 2 weeks of Learn to Play. I think this is going to be the one we wrap it up. We're going to start with the venture. So right now, look at this. I got the card laid up, set up out here. Your mission card is going to be right there in the middle. And venturing is the probably the most complex part of the game, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, probably besides knowing what cards to put in a battle site.
Yeah, your activators and stuff. But when you venture, it's like a gamble. You're saying, I can complete. Whoa, Vlad's on already. Vlad, how are you? I'm just talking about you. Thought you were coaching soccer.
Probably snow in there too.
Oh, they play soccer in the snow. That won't stop them. So when you venture, it's kind of like, well, I think I can win this venture. I'm going to have more points against you than you have on me. And so I think I'm going to venture 2 missions. Takes 7 completed missions to win the game. If you bet 3 or more, your opponent's going to start drawing cards. So on 3, you draw 1 card. On 4, you draw 2 cards. On 5, you draw 3 cards. On 6, you draw 4 cards. On 7, you draw 5.
Not 6?
Not 6. Well, unless you're Marcel. The goat draws 6.
It's the goat advantage.
Yeah, that's right, the goat advantage. So there are times when you can bet heavy like that and let your opponent draw extra cards. Here I am talking betting. We don't bet. We don't gamble in
venture.
Overpower. Yeah, we venture. You can venture big and let your opponent draw due to you have him outplaced. You have more cards placed on your character that are playable. He may have discarded duplicates, KO'd heroes, unplayable specials.
A nasty event in place.
Yeah, there might be an event that causes him to have cards that he can't play. So you can venture high. Ventures of 4, 5, and 6 are not. 6 is kind of uncommon. 7 is almost never happens. Sound is real quiet again. What is up with that? All right, let me look. I don't know. We're all the way up.
Plugged in good?
Yeah. I'll double check. Go ahead and explain some more about venture.
Yeah, so as Doug was mentioning, the venture is probably one of the most complex part of the game. Really, truly breaking down each hand, especially once you get a large number of cards placed on each side of the board. That's when it gets really complex because certain cards are going to negate or nullify the cards that your opponent have placed. But you're really sometimes just unsure because you don't know what the opponent has in their hand on what to venture. A lot of it is a lot of mathematics at that point. You're counting how many points your opponent has placed, how many you may have placed. It's not just as simple as how many cards do I have versus how many cards do they have. You really need to dissect, can I defend X, Y, and Z in the certain parts of the battle. And you got to be careful venturing because you get down too early and then it's hard to really come back, especially in the Swiss because of the time limit. You get 2 or 3 missions in the bottom and it's hard to come back and win the game.
Yeah, it can mean Josh says he still has trouble. Hey, there's the goat. Great job last couple of weeks. Thank you, Marcel. Appreciate it. Sound is fine, AJ says. Sound is fine with Vlad. Okay, Doug, it must be you. Doug Taylor, not Doug me. Yeah. When you venture, there are times to venture aggressively and times to be a little more passive. Don't take chances, and that's the big difference.
Yeah, and sometimes just giving your opponent that 1 extra or 2 extra cards can make all the difference. You know, you're thinking you're giving them a 2, 3, 4, 5 power card or something. You end up giving them a draw 3 or a Raza, and it really sways the venture back to them.
Or a negate.
Or a negate.
That now he's going to negate your draw 3.
Right.
So you really got to sometimes play it safe and not venture too high. But there are times, and you just go for it. And you can venture high, and even if they draw the cards, hope to knock a character out before he can play all that character specials and eliminate some cards out of his hand that way too.
Right. Yeah, you really tried that in the grinder event.
Right.
And, a big event was in play, and his opponent had discarded a lot of cards. You had a lot of card advantage. Had you just not placed any cards, I think you would have won.
I
that.
would have
You
won.
would've
Yep,
won
for
the
sure.
game.
Could have made one more of his cards unplayable.
Right.
But I wasn't thinking about betting 7
Right.
until all of a sudden it's like, whoa, there it is.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Betting 7 is now known as the Pim Gambit. Thanks, Josh. I love that, the Pim Gambit.
Yeah, who would have thunk you could bet 7 with Henry Pym?
Yeah, I did and almost got away with it.
Right.
Like you said, I could have bet 5 and won the hand easily and probably won the game in the next hand.
Right.
And Henry Pym is still a good character. I don't care what you guys say. I'm just waiting for Marcel to show up playing Pym.
Yeah, but really, I mean, the whole crux of the, game came down to not just you placing cards, but you gave him the royal family, which nullified your spawns card. You got
Right.
Finite power.
And he's able to defend it.
Right.
Yeah.
You would have had his character locked down, and I think that would have gotten rid of 2 more of his cards.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you take those chances. I mean, that's why the cards got backs on them.
Yep.
So, all right. So, if you win the venture, right now, I'm going to do this real quick. You move your mission upwards. See how I did that? I moved it from the reserve missions pile to the completed mission pile. Pretty fancy, huh?
It is fancy.
First player to get 7 completed missions wins. If you get 7 defeated missions, which does happen, oops, look at me mess everything up. If you get 7 down here, you lose the game. It's just as bad as losing all 4 of your heroes. Now, here is the tricky part. This is the most controversial ruling in the game, I think. What happens when you venture for the win and you lose your last hero? It comes down to the venture over KO. So if you win the venture, you lose your last character, and you ventured for the win, you're going to complete that 7th mission. Even though you lost all your heroes, you completed all 7 missions, you win the game. I don't know how they come up with that. I guess it has to be one or the other. Once they had to decide, is it going to be KO or is it going to be missions, and they chose missions. I don't see it ever changing.
Yeah, it's pretty controversial because a lot of times your opponent still has cards they could play, even though you have no heroes.
Right.
And so,
It's tough. I know.
Would you have won the venture? Probably not. Did you win the mission? You did.
Yeah, and it's almost a way of locking out your opponent from being able to attack you because you just lost your last hero, and you won the venture 8-7, and therefore win the game. It's happened.
Yep, that's why it's so risky to leave a character like Scarlet Witch or Carnage as the last character that you're going to KO,
Yeah,
because your opponent can just
get that
Okay.
-5 to venture total.
Yeah.
It's huge. We have had a discussion lately about that -5 to venture total when the KO event comes up too. And I personally, I don't think she should get it. That's pre-battle, and she's gone. Just take that hero card and put it away. But that's not the ruling. So, all right, we got. Oh wow, it's blowing up here. The Raza is a Starjammers card. Target character must discard all placed cards and may not attack for a major battle. It is very tough. Yes. Hey, Brett, how you doing? The answer to the trivia last week was there was no answer. Larry kind of messed that one up. It was
he was
Psylocke.
looking for.
Yeah, Psylocke card, Madripoor, and the Madripoor aspect. But the Madripoor aspect does not say Mandarin on it. So he had it wrong, and there was no answer. So technically,
So everybody-
we're going to go with.
Everybody gets fudge.
You want a piece of fudge? Come to Oklahoma. Everyone will have a piece of fudge there. Joe explained it. It's your heroes valiantly completed their mission but sacrificed themselves. Yep. That's it, Josh. I agree. I mean, that's the ruling, and that's the justification of it, I guess. So that's the way it is. And it's the way it's always been. I don't know when they made that ruling, but as far back as I can remember.
Yeah.
So that's the venture. Venture is the hardest part to understand.
Yeah, especially if you are playing Swiss and you're venturing, each you and your opponent, you have to decide how many to venture, because that's what determines who wins the game at the very end. It's the first eliminator for who wins the game.
Yeah.
The first tiebreaker. So the way that works is your completed missions minus your defeated missions. And then you take the net result, and whoever has the higher net wins that game.
And if that's a tie?
And if that's a tie, then you go to their number of characters that are still alive, not KO'd.
And if that's a tie?
And if that's a tie, then you go to whoever has the most hits in the permanent record. And then I'm not sure what it is after that.
Wow, if that's a tie.
Yeah, if that's a tie, I think you roll a dice there.
I might go current battle.
Yeah, maybe total hit points. Yeah.
And if that's a tie,
Yeah.
you slug it out.
Yeah. Play one
Last
more.
man
Play one
standing.
more hand.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the captain, Brett, everyone seems to like that ruling. They agree with it.
They like the missions over the
missions
remaining
over,
characters.
Yeah, missions over KO. But once you learn how to venture, it'll make the game a whole lot easier to play, to win. Although right now we are just learning to play casually
Right.
and having fun.
And unfortunately, so many people struggle with this, especially when they're new, because they were so used to just doing the battles,
Right.
and so they're not familiar with how the venture works. A lot of people still struggle with how you can move your missions. You can only move your defeated missions if you are betting from your completed missions pile. So if you're betting from your reserve, you are not.
Venturing, we don't gamble in that.
If you're venturing from your reserve pile, you are not able to move any missions from your defeated pile. They must come from the completed to move them out of the defeated.
And right, so if everything you have is still in the reserve or defeated, you have to venture out of your reserve pile. And if you have one in the defeated and you venture one, you do not get to move that back up to the reserve. And that's kind of like a part of the tie-breaking system. Mm-hmm. So they make it a little more difficult for you to get that mission out of the defeated pile. That's on purpose. And you can only venture out of the completed missions to move that mission up.
Right.
And
so that
that's
gives
a good rule.
That gives another complexity to it.
Right. So the tiebreakers can get kind of crazy, but that's the way it is. And Josh says, I am inevitable. I am Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Is venture victory in movie form? Yeah. It is a good rule, I think. But like I said, I don't know why they did it, how they came up with that. But it did good. Another thing about missions I don't think we covered, if you're running events, your events have to be out of that mission. Maybe we did cover that, actually, now I think about it. But you have to have your mission set match your events, the only exception being the any mission events, which there are two of those. Three of those. Hideout discovered. What's the DC one?
That allows you to remove a hit with anybody that has an inherent ability.
And the third one?
And the third one came out of Classic, and you get to draw cards or discard cards if your opponent does the exact same thing. So if your opponent has a draw 3, your opponent is going to be drawing 3 that hand as well. If they make you discard a card with Scarlet Witch's AI, they're going to discard a card.
Yeah. And now there's 5 events for every set of missions? Or
6.
6 events. They put a lot of effort into those events, and I think it really made the game a little more complex and actually made it a little more strategic.
Yeah.
They're good.
Unfortunately, the event sets are similar to a lot of the characters. A lot of them just aren't that competitive.
Right. You're not going to play a lot of them.
Just going to be a select few that you'll see for the most part being played.
So your events and your missions must match up. Outside of that, you can play whatever mission set you want as long as it matches your mission or your events. If you don't run events, you can play any mission. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's the one that's fun. You can act like you're running certain events that you're not.
Right. Your opponent thinks that you're going to play the KO event, and it's not in your deck, but you're running the missions. A little fun. All right. Let's start with the beginning of the battle. The player that goes first. Did we cover that? Conceding? We did that last week, I think, maybe, didn't we?
I think we just kind of...
The player who goes first has the option to concede first.
Right.
If he says, I'm in, then the number 2 player going second, can either concede at that point or say, I'm in also, and then you venture for the hand. Once venture is started, conceding means your opponent is going to move the ventured missions and you're going to move yours down. They're going to complete their venture, you're going to lose yours.
Yeah, and the person that has initiative is the person that had the highest points from the previous battle.
Right, and if it's the first battle of the game,
and it's random.
Yeah, and it's determined different ways by different tournament organizers. And if you're just playing for fun at home, flip a coin, or say, hey, I'll go first this turn, or this time, next game you go first, that type of thing. Brett says, a lot of events are hard to bend to your advantage over the opponents. Yep. Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes it just works out that way, though. If you're playing an anti-energy deck and you sit down and play against an energy deck and you got anti-energy events, look out. Your opponent's going to take a beating if your events come up.
Yeah, they were asking about playable characters. Yeah, actually, you will see a lot of Ghost Rider being played. He's very, very similar to the Starjammers. He does cost 1 extra point. He's 20 points, so he's a little tougher to get built into a deck. But he does offer 3 different grids that are 6, so it gives him an extra teamwork or so that he can play. And he has a fairly good inherent that it takes 4 different power types to spectrum him.
And they're asking about White Queen.
She's very playable.
She's very playable. A lot of times it comes down to you're going to play White Queen or Scarlet Witch.
Right.
But the White Queen on the Beyonder deck is nasty. That JW coming through a Beyonder with an 8 can be really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Starjammers bring a lot to the table with 19 points, absolutely. And then in, what was it, Classic, they got the Professor X, the 8 any power. It's like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, they had 3 great specials. He needed another one.
You never have to give Starjammers another good special.
Yeah, I've heard Phil Keffer mention that. He said, back in the day, you had the hand, and his premier special was the 8 any power.
Yeah.
You look at Starjammers, and that's their 4th best card.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like...
Right. And it's like, how do you compete with that? So the Starjammers are amazing. A lot of people used to play them. You'd see them in a lot of decks, even before Cadillac. Everyone liked to play the Starjammers. And, yeah, who can blame them? Captain says, thanks for the info. Says Raza Slang. No, the Raza is the name of the Starjammers card.
Yeah, it's the special that you target the opponent, one of the characters on the opponent's board. If it's successful, that target character has to discard all place cards, and they can't attack for the remainder of the battle. So it's a double whammy. They lose all their cards and they can't attack.
Right, and everyone calls everyone special Raza because Starjammers started playing it first.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider had it first, but nobody was playing Ghost Rider at the time. So nobody was saying pin and stare at you. And then you always getting hit with the Raza from the Starjammers, and that's where the slang came from. Yeah, Josh, they're amazing. And they can hold 2 unique power cards placed on them. Yep, for 19 points. Must have been somebody's favorite character in the game or when they were developing. So once you start the battle, the player who's going first can either attack with a special or power card, a teamwork, an ally,
Yeah, any type of universe.
a universe card. an activator. Did I say activators?
Yeah.
Um,
There are just certain cards that you have to start with first. So if you're going to play a universe teamwork card, it has to be the first part of the attack. You can't play, say, like an X-Man's 4 multi, make an additional, and then follow it up with a teamwork.
right. And if you play a teamwork, you must follow up with the power card, at least one attack, at least one power card attack. You can make 2, as the card states, but you don't have to make 2. You have to make at least 1. You can't just throw a 6 teamwork and no follow-ups. You have to make at least 1 follow-up. With a power, has to be a power card. It cannot be a special that acts as a power card. It has to
Right.
be an authentic power card. So sometimes teamworks are powerful, and sometimes you just don't have enough power cards.
Yeah.
And when you're playing against Heroes for Hire, sometimes you don't want to play that power card because you
You
don't want
need
to
it.
take that JW.
Yeah, you need at least a 3.
Right. So it's tough. Then when you make an attack, your opponent gets the chance to counter any attack that you make, any card that you play. So, and the player may not make an attack, he may try and remove a hit off of one of his characters. If he does try to do that, the opponent gets to counter. And by counter, they would be able to negate the card that you're playing to keep you from removing a hit or something along those lines. If you have a card in play that your opponent don't like and he goes on his offensive turn goes to negate a card you have in play, the opponent then has the opportunity to counter that and could negate them negating your card in play. Sounds a little complicated, but you can negate the negate, as
Yeah, when it's
Ricky
played
now
off,
knows.
when it's played offensively.
Yeah. Oh, right, only when it's played offensively. A defensive negate cannot be negated.
Yeah, so essentially anything that you do action-wise, your opponent has a chance to respond.
Yep. And that's the way it is throughout the game. At no time do you get to do anything without your opponent having the opportunity to do something. Even after you pass, all you can do is play defensively. You can no longer attack or concede. That's all you can do once you pass.
Yep. And one thing to keep in mind, you cannot pass with offensive cards in your hand. So if you have a power card, you cannot pass. If you have an activator that has an attack under your site, you cannot pass.
Right.
Now it's a little different if the cards are placed. You can pass at any time because you don't technically have to play those cards that are placed. But the ones in your hand, if you have an offensive action, you may not pass.
Right. You can't save it for defense. You have to either play it or concede. At the end of the battle, the points that you have against your opponent are your venture points. You total them up, and then their opponent will total up how much he has against you, and whoever has the most points wins that battle and wins the venture and moves their missions. If it's a tie, all current battle hits are moved to permanent record, and you play another hand.
All missions that were ventured stay in the piles that they were ventured from the previous hand. And if you have the ability to venture more missions, you must venture at least one more mission in the following hand.
Right. And when you do, if that venture of 1 makes you a total of 3, your opponent does not get to draw. Only if you venture 3 that hand.
Right. You
So-
also, if that happens where you tie in one venture and you venture one more, you are still able to play Fortress of Solitude, things like that, because it is what you had bet in the current venture phase. So even if you have 4 or 5 missions out there that are bet total, you can still play your Fortress of Solitude.
Right. And Doug Taylor says, are any playable cards in hand? Right. If you have anything playable in hand, you can't pass. AJ says, could I make a Superman hollow with a 6 energy and 8 strength? Could have easily made a Superman hollow with 6 energy and 8 strength. That would have been cool to see.
Could have made us regular hero with that.
Yeah. Josh says, I just have to pretend Morlock's is Superman. Yeah. And Vlad says, Heroes for Hire, baby, my top character. Heroes for Hire and Starjammers are hard to argue with. You sit down at a game and that's what your opponent's going to play, one of those two. Yeah, you can't blame them. They're very good cards. Superman. Brett says Superman should be 7285 or 6385. Giving him a 5 intellect? Maybe a 6. I don't know.
Superman's that smart?
Yeah, he's pretty. He built the Fortress of Solitude. And I assume he programmed the computer in there too. So, all right. Captain says, I didn't realize the passing rules had all those limitations, or if I did at some point, I forgot. Yeah. And Josh agrees, Heroes for Hire are awesome. All right.
Yep.
So we discussed the attack part. Guys, we're going through here really quick. All the different cards you can attack with. And your responses. Let's start the layout for the hits. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's terrible. Why is that so small? Let's see if we can make that a little bigger. Oh, there we go. It's probably not going to be a whole lot bigger, but let's see. Hopefully you guys can see that. Hits from the current battle and hits from the permanent record. The difference. The hits from the permanent record are all your previous battles until you're KO'd. Hits from current battle are only hits that have happened since that hand's venture. As you can see, different players still play it differently. You're supposed to tuck them slightly under the character when they're permanent, and then the hits from current battle will be outside of that, but in front of the character. Some people like to turn them sideways when they're on the permanent record, just so they don't take up as much room, and I'm fine with that, but the technical rule is they're standing up and you should be able to see it, even though on this diagram it doesn't show it, but you should be able to see the icons that are against that character so that you know exactly what's there.
Yeah, a lot of people now, they'll throw the card vertical, or in portrait fashion. When the opponent takes the hit, a lot of times they'll turn it sideways to signify that they're taking that hit.
And that's good too. I think I do that sometimes. I don't know that I do it every time. I can't remember.
Not necessary, but
It's not necessary, but it does help you
keep
understand
track.
what's going on, right?
Right.
Did he take the hit or not? And if they turn it sideways, it usually means that they're taking that hit. I have seen some guys that'll turn it sideways and they're still
then
thinking
defend
about it.
Yeah, Marcel does that a
So you
lot.
kind of get mixed signals there, but as long as you're clear with your opponent, everything that he does, after a couple hands, you get used to it and you know what's going on.
Yeah, I think just make sure you verbally acknowledge what's happening during the battle.
Right. The hits from current battle are going to count toward venture. It's going to count toward KOing the character. So if your hits on permanent record, if you have 19, if you get one hit in the current battle, that character's gone. He doesn't get to stay and finish the battle. He's gone at the 20 unless there is something in play that allows him to stay to the end of the battle, which could be an inherent ability, an event. Some people have special cards.
Or Morbius, it takes 30 points to KO him.
Right. If Morbius gets, as soon as he gets 30, he's removed from the game, then he goes to the dead heroes. So the hits from battle and the hits from permanent record are what total up to the hits to KO and spectrum. So you got to keep an eye on that. Pay attention to what you have on your characters and what you have on your opponent's characters. You don't want to be taking a hit thinking that it's not going to knock you out and then go to play a card and your opponent says, no, I knocked him out, and you just didn't remove him from the game.
Yeah, so it is best just once your character is KO'd, immediately remove him from the table.
Yeah. Remove the hits from permanent record, hand them back to your opponent. He will discard them into the proper pile, and the hits from current battle stay out there till the end of the hand. Scarlet Witch has a 6 strength that has a fighting icon air version. I don't like it when guys play the 6 fighting version of that.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah, and to me that would be banned because I think they're trying to confuse you.
Yeah.
They're going to throw a 6 strength hit on you that has a fighting icon by mistake.
Yeah, if you go back and watch one of myself and Derek Bertrand's game, you'll see he has the 6 fighting on me. I know it's strength, but he keeps thinking it's fighting. So he keeps trying to throw a strength power card on me and thinks it's for the KO. And I keep having to remind him
He
that
fooled himself.
he fooled himself with the card. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I don't like it. I would ban that card. Those would be the 2 cards I would ban. That one and DOW. Not that I would ban DOW, but it is banned. So I would add that air card to the list. Might talk to the guys about that. Get that banned.
Yeah, I think there's enough 6 strings out there.
Yeah, it's not hard to get. AJ says the players should move them in permanent record after the battle so they can see it. That way you make sure you see it. Yep, they should. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way, but they should. Josh says my only complaint about Heroes for Hire is they didn't make a good Luke Cage card. Yeah, they already had so many good specials. Yeah, Luke's was Void 1 Strength or Energy Attack.
Power Man.
Yeah, Power Man. You're right, Josh. I mean, what else could they have done?
They could have made him the Black Knight, I guess.
They had to give him something. Well, yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah.
Giving him the JW.
Yeah, Power Man should have been the 3.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Hey, Lawrence. Lawrence, how are you? Delayed question, clarification. I was catching up from the beginning. A player can still concede after passing once if that player's turn again, correct? Yes. But it can only concede on your turn. So if you pass, your opponent gets to do their action, and then when it comes back to being your turn, you can concede.
Yeah, you have the ability again to pass or concede at that point.
All right, and you can pass 3 times, and then on your 4th turn, go ahead and concede, whatever it takes. But there's nothing to stop you from conceding on your turn.
Or if you're betting for the win and you just want to keep passing because you think you're going to win the venture, you can pass until they're out of cards.
Yep. And Brett says Scarlet Witch's misprint card is way more common. The proper 6 strength is $12 on Larry's site. Really?
Yeah, the 6 fighting is more common, but the 6 strength was not hard to get.
Yeah, it wasn't hard to get. So that person wouldn't get another turn. Captain, oh yeah, I don't know why I assumed the opponent would also pass. You didn't say that. Okay. If both players pass, it's the end of the hand.
Right.
So
you count up the venture points and move your missions accordingly.
You can both pass, which means neither one of you concedes, and you just add up the venture points. And like we said, if it's a tie, you just carry over to the next hand the ventured missions, but the hits get tucked. So the hits do not carry over. Let's see what else we got here. Hits from the current battle, permanent record, ending the battle, the venture total. Yeah, I think we're doing really good. The reserve character. Reserve character does not enter the game until one of the frontline characters, the turn after one of the frontline characters is knocked out. There are exceptions to this rule too. There are events that will bring the reserve character to the battle and will return to the reserve spot at the end of the battle.
Yep. There's also a home base Latveria that allows your reserve hero to enter the front line immediately once one of the frontline heroes is KO'd.
That's a nice inherent.
It
could be a nice inherent, but nobody plays that home base.
Well, I did.
Huh?
Yeah, I got to the finals a few years ago with it.
Nice.
I did lose to Joe in the finals, but
Joe G?
yeah, I beat him in Swiss. He ended up beating me in the finals in single limb.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a very good deck. I mean, you can throw Mr. Fantastic back there with a draw 3. I was playing it with AOA, so I was trying to power mimic the draw 3 before Mr. Fantastic ever got to the front line.
I love it. Yeah.
Once somebody's KO'd, you just bring him right up front and try to draw 3 again.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty good. Now with Silver Surfer's new cards and Invisible Woman, it's a pretty competitive deck.
Yeah, nice. All right. There are some specials that will allow you to switch the reserve with any frontline character, remove hits, things like that. So there are exceptions to every rule in Overpower. And the best way to be competitive is you really got to know every card that could be in your opponent's deck. and that's not easy because there are so many cards that are printed at this time.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to get in from the ground floor from the very beginning. We're way past that. Captain says, Doug, ask Phil what his Leveria team was, please. Who did you have on that deck?
So I had Invisible Woman, Silver Surfer, Doctor Doom, because he has a lot of good cards now from MOE.
And an 8 intellect.
Yep, and Mr. Fantastic in reserve.
Okay, so you played without a negate.
Yeah, there's no negate on there, unfortunately.
Okay.
But you have a 9 or less for Silver Surfer, a 9 or less for Invisible Woman. And Doctor Doom has, like I said, some monster OPDs now.
All right. I think we've discussed how building a battle site, you can only have one of each code.
Correct.
So that's kind of tricky. Some cards are miscoded, but you have to pay special close attention to that. I don't know what would happen if you come with an illegal battle site. Do they just make you take the illegal cards out of the battle site going forward?
Probably would be the most fair way, especially if you're new and really didn't know the new codes.
Oh, John, how are you? I used to love playing Jumping Captains with Marvel and Captain Atom. Too bad it's terrible now.
I wouldn't say it's terrible.
I wouldn't either. It's a great gimmick if you can pull it off.
Yeah, especially now that you got Enforcers and Hawkeye out of a battle site that you can use to flip-flop again
Yeah.
with Action Leader and the Enforcers card.
Yeah, it can be fun. The problem is it's not always competitive.
Yeah.
And you got to draw them at the right time.
Yeah,
But you can set them up.
Yeah, it's still
You can
pretty
set 'em up.
competitive because Captain Atom, if you start with him in reserve, he can play Fighting Teamworks from reserve. And Captain Marvel, he's got the 9 or less Savoy, so he's a expensive spawn character, essentially.
The captain is asking what is Jumping Captains. Captain Marvel and Captain Atom both have cards that allow them to switch places with the reserve
And remove all hits.
and remove all hits from current battle. Is it current battle?
And permanent record.
And permanent record. So they're going to remove all hits and switch places. And then when you get a few more hits on them, you just swap them again.
Yep, you can also play the event to flip-flop characters.
Yep, there's an event that'll allow you to do it too. So it is fun. It's just one of those things that it's hard to pull off sometimes.
Yeah, the problem is Marvel has 22 points and Captain Atom's 20 points, so
That's a lot of
it's
your
a lot
points.
of it's a big point of your deck.
Yep, and speaking of points, let's talk about how many points you get to build a deck. Oh, Douglas, make that bigger. Oh, look at that. Oh,
There you
yeah,
go.
here we go. What do you think? The sum deck rule is an Overpower Legion deck building rule that determines the maximum value of the sum of all your characters' power grids in order for your deck to be considered tournament legal. The sum deck rule is as follows. To maintain a tournament legal team, the sum of all the ratings of all the power grids for your team is directly proportional to the total number of ranks and must conform to the following chart. A 12-rank team must be no more than 58 points. That is 4 characters that only have the 3 energy, fighting, and strength. They don't have intellect.
Yep, so that equates to 14.5 points on average.
13-ranked team must be no more than 62 points. A 14-ranked team must be no more than 67 points. A 15-ranked team must be no more than 72 points. A 16-ranked team must be no more than 76 points.
Yeah, so the 13 and 14 is really where you have a lot of variance. You're losing an extra point on both of those.
Yeah.
So you think you would go from 72 down to, 68, but it takes another point away from you. So you got to be very careful if you're using 2 3-grid characters and 2 4-grid characters.
And I don't think too many people play 2 3 grids in a competitive tournament.
John Keffer just did it with that Beyonder deck with Old Magneto and Old Morph. So
He did.
Yeah,
Yes.
so-
But like I said, not too many people do it.
it's not real common.
And John comes up with some very, very interesting decks.
He does.
And that was one, but I don't think he'll show up the next tournament playing 2 3 grids.
Yeah, it's tough just because you truly do need an intellect grid typically.
Yeah. And Josh is asking, how do you think they came up with 76? You know, that's a great question. Who knows how they came up with a lot of these numbers?
I think maybe, and I don't know if this is accurate or not because it was made, well, I guess in Monumental, but you have the X Babies, who is the cheapest 4-grid character, who's a 15, and the most expensive natural character was a 23. And so if you just add 4 and subtract 4, you get to that 19-point average, which is the 76-point grid.
Yeah, but that wasn't until Monumental, like you
Right.
said. I mean,
Yeah,
how did
so-
they come up with it?
Yeah.
Before then.
the only-
Well, maybe they didn't. I don't.
It's the only thing I can think because that's
Well,
when the
it
X
had to
Babies
be.
came out.
Well, we had 76 points in IQ.
Right.
So,
was-
it had
was
to happen.
pre-babies.
Yeah, pre-babies. Oh, Geek, how are you, man? That rule was annoying strictly for preventing you from placing all your favorite placing all your favorite comic book characters onto your team.
Yeah, because there were a lot of expensive characters that were, the normal characters that people love. Spider-Man, Thor, Magneto, all very expensive if you go with the 4-grid.
The 76 points made a lot of characters unplayable in competitive tournament play.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean you can't sit at your kitchen table and have a whole lot of fun with them.
right.
If you're playing non-competitive,
Doesn't
you
matter
could
what
even
your
throw
point
the
total is.
76 points out the window, and who cares?
Yeah. So characters like Apocalypse were very hard to play because they were not even an 8-grid and they were 23 points.
Yeah, and he didn't even have all that great of specials.
No.
Captain says, Josh, Theo said that Flair came up with the stat total limits, and they had people at Marvel come up with the stats. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Captain says, given how they apparently thought giving Spider-Man, Iron Man, etc., crazy high stats would make them more playable, I feel forced to conclude that one hand didn't know what the other hand was doing, as the saying goes with regards to all that. And
That's probably a
John
lot of it.
says, Rule kept most of DC out of tourneys.
It did, yeah. Well, what really kept DC out of tourneys is nobody had a negate at all in the DC format, besides Doomsday's personal negate. And that's essentially just avoid a special.
Yeah.
Only for Doomsday.
I mean, that's only 4 characters. Not too many of the DC characters are playable.
No, you'll see some that are being
The
played
Ray.
in the Ray. And I think the Flash is very playable.
Right. But Batman, Superman,
Yeah, Superman maybe, but
eh,
maybe.
maybe.
I mean, he can play 4 teamworks, and he does have an 11 and a 7.
Wonder Woman could be playable in the right
yeah.
deck.
Yeah, she's tough too because her teammate avoid's not a universal avoid.
Teammate avoid 9 or less.
Yeah, it's only for the teammate, not for Wonder
Oh,
Woman.
I see. Yeah. She has a teammate avoid.
She
so
does have
everyone's
a
going to
new-
go after her.
Right. She does have a numerical avoid as well. But
But you can't run them both.
Right.
You're going to have one of them's going to be unplayable.
Yeah. Guess you
Yep, Josh says Wonder Woman. Do you think Flair wanted to get away from AO negate characters, considering they didn't make any for DC or Image?
Yeah, I think that the creators of the game really didn't like negates, period. And that's been expressed on many fronts back in the day.
When did Steve and Ron actually come on board to the design team, though? I know they were the two that I don't think really
Yeah, and I don't
liked
think,
negates,
I
but
don't
I'm
think
not
Norm
sure.
liked them either.
Who did?
Norm.
Norm, yeah. I don't know that those guys were all in from the beginning.
But if you look at the true progression of the negate, there was nobody over a max 6 that had a negate until they started making the IQ heroes. If you look at all the precursors, the old original Beast was a max 6, so was Scarlet Witch. And then, like I said, that really started changing with the IQ.
Yeah, the negate, I can understand where they want to they don't like the negate because it gets rid of a lot of the things that you can do in the game.
But they're a
overpowered
necessity.
things
Yeah.
that would make the balance of play totally unbalanced.
Yeah. It's an evil necessity because you would never win a game if Onslaught Citadel wasn't playing. You didn't have a negate to stop all those tricks.
Right. They can just do too much. And if they sit down, they know your only negate is in your battle site.
Yeah. Once you play
They
it.
smile.
Yeah, especially once they know you played it.
Yeah, especially back when they were using
The
Marauders, Vertigo,
Yeah.
where they could move the attack wherever they wanted. It's like, oh, this is going to be a quick game.
Right.
And they were right.
And it was.
John says Mike Dow used to run Superman with some success.
Yeah, I think Superman's playable, but
And
it's not easy.
Brainiac has an 8 and a 7 for cheap and good special cards. I used to like Brainiac.
The specials are just okay.
They're just okay.
Yeah.
His 1 per deck is not overpowering. It's an 8, I think, is his best one.
An 8 that makes you discard a card if it's successful.
Yeah,
He also has a target opponent can attack for remainder of battle.
which is nice, but
Yeah. But he has nothing else.
everybody in those early sets had that card.
Yeah, he has an avoid 1 attack and then a 5 that he can attack or defend with. Is pretty much all of his good cards.
Yeah, Scott Flint beat me once when I was playing Brainiac. I had that 5 in my hand. He knocked Brainiac out with a 4. I forgot I could defend with it.
Oh.
Yeah. He told me after the hand, he goes, you could have defended. And it's like, I just,
Non-Brainiac.
yeah. Brett says, to be fair, AO negates are extremely powerful, but to kneecap DC and image with no negates while also not nerfing negates was a double gut punch.
Yeah.
You are correct, Brett.
Yeah.
And Josh says, look how things turned out. Got to have that negator. Old Geek says, and Superman wasn't an 8. I remember our group howling out loud at that when we opened the DC packs. It doesn't make any sense. You are right. Captain says, Brett, seriously, with the many, many rule changes they made about how to play certain specials, you'd think if they were going to stop making new negates, they'd change the rules of the old ones. Yeah. Josh says, I wish they'd have made more characters with the Morbius ED non-numerical negate. That would have been one thing. Hey, Howard, how are you? Late getting on. I noticed that. He's at a grandchild's hockey game. He put one up on the top shelf with the peanut butter jar. That's a hockey term, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, Howard, I'm not a hockey player. Brett says Morbius is the only one. I think the way to overcome the AO supremacy is for more personal and non-numerical negate characters.
Which, if you have personal negates, they're not good enough.
Yeah.
They're worse than avoid 1 attack because it only avoids a special.
Right.
And specifically for that character.
Right, so power card.
The one like Morbius has isn't terrible, but the premier cards, well, it negates the premier cards. It doesn't get rid of the ones with numerical value. So Morbius can get rid of the draw 3 or the Raza type cards, but if you throw an 11, he can't use it.
And Doug Taylor wants to know, Howard, is that a Canadian term or a hockey one? Josh says, can't make that DC Captain Marvel work. Yeah, Captain Marvel's got a personal negate, but
That one's really bad, yeah. That hero's really bad.
Yeah, it's tough.
But yeah, like I said, there was a few playable DC characters, but by and large, no. Same with Image.
Yeah, I think they wanted to show how powerful they were by giving them those big stats,
Right.
but that doesn't make them playable.
Right,
And
because
they
they're,
kind of came back to bite them.
yeah, it's actually a backfire, because now you have to counteract that with, lower point characters.
Right. John says, put it in the top corner of the new Boston understands. Of the net. Boston net. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's
that's
a go in the high corner of the net, says Howard.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a Maple Leaf or Bruin term.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not much of a hockey fan. Old Geek says, but then you had to open the packs or read Previews magazine or similar mags for a few image leaks. There were no overseas YouTube users posting whole set previews.
It's true.
This is true. But before Classic came out, there was a huge leak of the whole Classic list.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they went back and changed certain cards just to say, so that they could say, no, that leak's not real.
Oh.
And that's when Deathlock became became a max 6 character.
Yeah, because it did have a magazine printed with like the Brood Queen or something.
Yep.
And I know that character never did
Yeah,
make
so
it.
they changed things just because of that leak. I don't know who leaked it, but it did get leaked out. I think, what was the email newsletter that Gary David Martin had, GDM Jr.? But, you know, there were ways. Word did get out, and it's not as easy as it is today, but there were ways to leak. How in the world Superman doesn't have a teammate of Void or at least a master mold is beyond me. Yeah. I think it was just
Yeah, just the whole set was.
they gave too much power to DC to create their own characters and cards.
Right.
And
Yeah, unfortunately, the cards. A lot of those cards are. You can just throw them in the trash can. They're not playable.
wow, how about that? We're almost through this rule book. The home base exception to the point totals. You can take any 4 characters off of the home base. Doesn't matter what their point total is.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that last week a
Yep.
little. With,
The fusion rule. The fusion rule is multi-power cards. Multi-power power cards will always be the same. 2 or more against a character. They can only be 1 icon. You can't say one multi-power hit is an energy and that other multi-power hit is a strength. They fuse. They do not fuse with multi-power special cards. Multi-power specials would fuse, but
they do not fuse either.
they do not.
The specials do not. Just the power cards only.
Just the power cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you have a Spawn 4 multi and a Magneto 4 multi, that is still 2 different
Oh,
icon
okay.
hits.
I stand corrected. But the power cards will fuse. They can combine with multi-powers. They don't have to fuse with multi-power specials. The combination exclusion. What is this? The combination exclusion is an Overpower Legion ruling on how multi-power cards interact with special cards, which we just covered. They don't. They don't fuse. The clone rule. Clone rule is an Overpower Legion ruling on the different types of character cards with which you may build a deck. The clone rule is as follows. No 2 identical characters may be on the same team. You cannot play 2 Captain Americas. It should be noted that a particular 3-rank character is considered identical to his 4-rank counterpart. Therefore, it is not possible to have a 3-rank version of Spider-Man and a 4-rank version of Spider-Man on the same team. However, it is perfectly legal for opposing players to have identical characters of each other. Well, duh, that kind of goes without saying. But they felt like they needed to say it.
Yeah, so for instance, you cannot play Beast the Brute and they're either the 3-stat Beast or the 4-stat Beast. However, you can play Beast the Brute with Dark Beast because they are not clones, they are actually variants.
Yeah, that's as clear as all get out, right? Any character limitation is an Overpower Legion. Okay, in case you guys are wondering what Overpower Legion is, that's just the governing body that made the rulings back in the day. So it was norm. It was norm. There's all norm. The any character limitation is an Overpower Legion ruling on how any hero and any character special cards may be used during an officially sanctioned Overpower tournament game. The any character limitation is as follows. Any hero special cards and any character special cards may never be retrieved from the dead pile with the any hero, any character BQ special card,
Which
the
is
web-headed
the web-headed
wizard
right?
and top hat and tails, respectively.
Right. Yes, Josh, that is a perfectly legal deck. So you can run Super Patriot with Captain America. And a way to kind of specify that is if the variant character always says may play XYZ specials. Some said may play in place. You can play in place no matter what it says on the actual card. I think the only exception to that was for some reason the Golden Age Wolverine is actually considered a clone, not a variant, even though his says that he can play Wolverine specials.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's the only one that I can recall off the top of my head. But
Huh, okay. Any hero special cards and any character special cards may never be used to fulfill the follow-up requirements of a universe ally card. Whoops, didn't they change that?
Which one?
Any heroes cannot follow up an ally card?
That is correct now.
Now they can. Forget I read that. 'Cause you could do that now. BMG, no, I mean now, North American Overpower League had changed that. You can now follow up an ally card with any hero card.
Or to any other special. So if you play, again, Spawn's 4 multi, Magneto's 4 multi, you can follow it up with an any hero special.
And then the last page, guys, we made it through this rule book. How about that? The Power Leech target rule. The Power Leech target rule is an Overpower Legion ruling on how the any character Power Leech special may be used during an officially sanctioned Overpower tournament game. The Power Leech target rule is as follows. The any character Power Leech special card must target a specific character on the opponent's front line. This character may then make a defensive action in an attempt to resist the effects of the Power Leech. As the Power Leech does not have a value, the defensive action cannot be value specific. In other words, avoid 1 attack of 9 or less. Would not work, but avoid 1 attack would. If the targeted character is unable to defend against the Power Leech, then the attack is successful, and the target character's team, not the target character alone, must discard the appropriate number of cards. Remember, the Power Leech must target an active frontline character and may never target an opponent's battle site or home base.
Yeah, and so you'll still see a lot of players throw the Power Leech out there, and it's just kind of out in no man's land. You have to actually select one of the characters on the opponent's
And
side
they
of the
did
board.
that because it was just so powerful.
Yeah, you could only negate it.
Yeah. And your
And-
opponent stood no chance. It came down to who drew the Power Leech first a lot of the times.
Yeah, or the negate.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let me read a few things here. Captain says, my brother and I are planning to build some DC-only decks and play some DC-only games this summer. I'm really looking forward to it. You could come up with some nice combos if you're staying inside the DC universe. I just built a KO event deck with Super Patriot on the front line, Captain America in reserve. Yep, Josh, you can do that for sure. Brett, which is weird because Beast, Dark Beast, and Beast the Brute are all different characters. We're not talking Tommy the Green Ranger and Tommy the White Ranger here. Howard says, if you are serious playing a DC only event and others have JLA or DC unopened packs to offer up, I have an unopened box of starters I would donate for a sealed deck tournament.
Would do.
Nice. Lawrence says, Doug, read the combination exclusion rule. It's an important one. It's about combining an attack special with a power card for a single attack, not the fusion rule. All right.
Yeah, so essentially that would be something like throwing rogues for any power with a power card.
That's, where's he said?
I think we've covered that before, though.
Read the combination exclusion rule. Oh, there. Okay, I can read that. The combination exclusion is an Overpower Legion ruling on how multi-power cards interact with special cards. The combination exclusion is as follows. Any special that states that it may be combined with a power card must be combined with exactly the stated type of power card and may never be combined with a power card. Or in any power, which was not around here, right? So, in the case of an additional attack that may follow a special card, a multi-power card may be used. Thanks, John. I totally forgot about that one. So if it says it can be combined with one energy card, it must be an energy card. It cannot be a multi-power card, cannot be an any power card. It is specific. Captain says, Doug and Phil, do you not think Brainiac's special to make opponent discard a universe card is playable? Teamwork cards are placed a lot. Seems like you could almost always use that. You would think, but you can't.
Yeah, Brainiacs isn't great because it's a target character.
And as soon as you draw it, it's going to be the hand they don't place teamwork.
Yeah,
Almost guaranteed.
And when it's a target character, there's many ways to avoid it or lock it down.
Right.
It's not near as good as, say, the Hawks or Colossuses. Or it's
Right.
an opponent that takes a full negate to stop that from happening.
And it's like Ghost Rider and Scarlet Witch have opponent must discard one place card. You can't avoid it. You can only negate it.
Yeah, so it's definitely not as playable as something like Juggernaut's Rays or Cyclops's, where it removes all the Place Universe cards.
Yeah. And as soon as they see one come out of your hand for Brainiac, they'll stop placing Teamworks. Unless they absolutely have to. So they're going to try and make that card unplayable in your hand.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to place it.
Yeah, right. And you're not going to want to place it. I don't know. You might place it, keep them from placing Teamworks. But they're not going to carry them over to the next hand.
Yeah, and it has no venture value if you're not able to successfully pick off a
This is
universe
true.
card.
This is true. No venture value. Venture is everything, fellas. Placing Teamworks is so important. That's one of the few strategies my brother and I have been doing since the 90s that people still use in tournaments today. Yep, but there are ways to counter it. It won't fail that there will be hands where they don't place one. And the same hand that you draw, that's special. It happens more often than you would think. Yeah, there are definitely better cards for the same kind, but if you have Brainiac in a deck, I still feel like I'd stick one of those in there. Yeah, you could play one. I probably wouldn't play 2 or 3, but one is fine. All right, so we made it through the rule book. Yay, we're done with the Learn to Play, unless you guys have any questions. There are a couple things I want to talk about. I'm glad Howard's on here. It looks like the OKC shootout has a change of date. It is moving to May 4th. The post I saw did not mention May 3rd. Does that mean we're not doing anything on Friday night? I don't know.
I did speak to Josh yesterday. He said he was planning to do an event that catered around the first 3 sets, and it was going to be a battles only
On the 3rd.
event on the 3rd.
On Friday.
So you can go up to Mission Control, and it's just a battles event.
Oh, okay. Josh Christopher says May 4th is my birthday. Well, May the 4th be with you. So if you are planning on going to the OKC shootout in April, it has moved. This was brought on because of the outrageous price of airfare going into Oklahoma the weekend of the original date. I don't remember what it was now. April 20th,
19th or 20th, something like that.
somewhere around in there. For some reason, airfare was twice the price. So a lot of guys couldn't afford that or didn't want to. Oops, forgot it was Monday. Hi, Ricky. How do you forget it's Monday? It's like forgetting it's Friday.
I hope you went to work.
Yeah. Ricky won't have any problems being at the OKC shootout May 3rd and 4th, I'm sure. Yeah, there he says, everyone, I'll see you there. Ricky, you do know that it's changed the date, I assume, since you're right there with Josh. Close enough. What, an hour apart?
Yeah, I think it's a couple hours from Tulsa, Oklahoma City. But
okay.
Yeah.
But the airfare was expensive. A lot of people weren't going to be able to go, so they moved the date, and hopefully that opens it up. Ricky's on a week vacation.
Yeah, remember he caught us on the ski slopes last week?
Yeah. So if you were planning on it, the date's moved. If you weren't planning on it, now you got another opportunity. May 3rd and 4th. So hopefully Josh can rebound and get a nice... we left so abruptly last week, and it's because our internet stopped responding and we got cut off. I got to look into these OBS settings and see if something's changed. I didn't change anything. So, Howard, Howard says, hi, Ricky. Howard, you guys aren't planning on going to OKC. Was anybody? Is the GOAT going to be there? GOAT, are you still in the chat? Are you coming? Can I see? I can't see who's in the chat. I hate that. Why won't it let me see?
I don't know why it doesn't. I would say if Howard and Marcel's probably out.
Yeah, I doubt he'll come without him. So I just closed out the chat completely for me to see.
Yeah, it would be so expensive to fly 4 or 5 people out there.
Yeah, it's a long way to go. So hopefully the goat will show up. I don't think Phil Keffer's going. Let's see, Brett, still almost 600 for me to get to OKC. Wow. That's a lot of money. A lot of money, no matter what anyone tells you. Michael says, thanks, guys. Got to go. Don't do the show on April 8th. Go see the eclipse in totality. It's right there by you. Howard, T, many thanks for searching the magazines for me. Fly to Dallas and drive, Ricky says.
We'll fly to Tulsa. Drive with Ricky.
Yeah, it's only, Ricky says, a 3-hour drive or so.
Oh, okay. From Dallas.
Much cheaper flights. Howard says none of them can make it from Canada.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Michael, the eclipse is not too far from me. You are correct. Tulsa can be pricey too, Ricky says. Boy, we need to look into Seattle. We need a date. Come on, Doug. Get us a date. Larry's not in the chat today. He had something going on. I can't remember what he told me. He said he couldn't make it.
You're probably looking up more trivia questions to stump you.
Wow, we got to get a date and book that airfare to Seattle. Wow.
When I spoke to Josh, yeah, he said it was almost double the price to come to Columbus right now than what it was to go to Boston. So.
For Josh to come to Columbus,
Yeah.
would it be right now?
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on.
Wow. Howard says it's too expensive with the Canadian peso.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
know,
American-
Howard. It's expensive for everybody.
Yeah, the American peso is not much better.
Yeah. I hope a lot of you guys show up. Just don't try to buy a house in Seattle. I'm not going to stay, Josh. I'm just going for a weekend. I don't want to move there for sure. I love Columbus. And you guys seem to like it here too, because y'all showed up for us really well. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So, all right, I think we're going to wrap it right here. Doug says it's almost for sure September 20th to 24th. Yeah, but Doug, I don't want to book airfare on an almost for sure. I know, we got to wait till April. It's 2 more weeks. Ricky says use the Mexican loony. Old Geek says Niagara Falls still set for June. Yes, it is. I'm going to try to make a week out of Seattle, says Josh. Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
Houses in Seattle are insane, says Doug. Yeah, everywhere. They're insane. I can just imagine what they are there.
Yep, I'm being told to wrap it up. It's my son's birthday tonight. So.
All right. Howard says it's much cheaper for us to fly to Seattle than Oklahoma. What the heck?
Yeah, that's what everybody's saying. Yeah.
What is going on? All right, guys. We're going to get out of here. Phil's got to go. Doug, talk to that venue and see. Tell them the price of airfare is going up. We want to book our flights.
Yeah.
See if they'll commit.
And if you guys don't have anything going on Thursday at 8 o'clock this week,
Great point.
Doug and I are going to be battling it
We're
out,
going to play live on stream at 8 o'clock.
taking
right
questions.
Here. Yeah, we'll take your questions. We're going to have a camera on each of us over each shoulder, similar to what we did at the Champs. And you'll be able to see our cards and laugh at the stupid plays that I make. So make sure you join us, like, subscribe, and we'll see you all soon. Have a great week. Couple of days. We'll see you on Thursday.